do have a couple goals for this on this tour. Okay, number one, I want everyone to have fun. Okay, number two, I want everyone to learn something new. Like I said, we're going to be stopping between historical stops. That's actually one of my favorite parts, is sharing the culture of St. Croix. And number three, it is a food tour. Everyone with a full belly, okay? All right. I do have a couple guidelines for us on the tour, just help the tour go smoothly. We are going to be walking on the street a lot. So if we all just stay on the sidewalk together as we're walking, and when we cross the street, we cross the street together, okay? Number two, no smoking. Again, let's just keep it going smoothly. And then number three, we are going to be passing a lot of amazing stores and everything like that, or even some of the restaurants. So I just ask no shopping as we're doing the tour. We do have a full group today. So at the end of the tour, I'm more than willing to help everyone go back to a certain store or location. I'll even walk you there if you guys want to get something, okay? So don't be afraid, we'll be able to find it. All right, any questions? Okay, I just wanted to confirm no allergies, and then also who can have an alcoholic drink? Who's over the age of 18? Okay, so 2 can. All right, perfect. Just keep that in mind for later on. That's being a treat, okay? All right, so I know everyone's hungry, so let's start. I'm gonna pass this around right now. I'm gonna have some pepper sauce on the side for you guys. I do suggest tasting the pepper sauce first, and then if you love it, go to town with it, okay? I'm gonna hand it all out, and this is something you're gonna eat with your hands, okay, guys? Okay, I'm gonna pass out the doubles first. Singles, sorry. Here we go, and I'll pass out the napkins in a second.
Delicious.
Right, thank you.
No, like I tasted the pepper sauce and that had really nice spice to it, so I added that, but the dish itself wasn't super spicy, but with the sauce, it was really good.
All right, guys.
I could definitely taste some curry, something like kind of smoky in there too. Really, really like deep interest in flavors. Like they taste familiar, but you're not really sure what they are. They kind of work together. Definitely some curry, big garlic, but everything else is kind of like, not really sure, but it's delicious. So it's a double, and it's bara, which I guess is the dough, and then the filling is chickpeas and potatoes.
These own us. Any guesses of what they are? One you guys are from. United States, the one that's currently owning us. I didn't mention the other one, sometimes I do, but it starts with a D. Denmark. Yep. And now the rest, any guesses? European countries that were big colonizers. Any guesses? Any guesses? Britain, yep. British, yep. So we got that one. So we got Spanish, yep. That's the first one. Anybody else? Starts with an F. France. And the other one starts with a D or an N. Netherlands, perfect. And the last one no one gets. I read you less. You read the in-flight magazine, but
Knights of Malta.
Knights of Malta, also now known as the country of Malta. Back then, they were a group of very wealthy aristocrats with a lot of religious power. Later on the tour, I'll be going over the very crazy, complicated history of how these 7 different countries own St. Croix, and 2 of them actually ended up owning St. Croix twice. So it's actually to me, a very interesting history. But when a lot of these countries would come in and colonize a new place or move in, one of the things that they would do is build a church. And this is a perfect segue into the church that's behind us. It was the first of many churches built during the Danish occupation. It was originally built in the early 1700s as a wooden structure. Then it got knocked down in a hurricane, and it was rebuilt as a stone structure in the late 1700s. Okay? What's actually particularly unique about the stone structure and something that we're going to notice as we walk around Christiansted, that they actually use coral and Bermuda sandstone in the walls itself to be used as concrete. And in a second, I'll show you guys some of the coral in this wall itself here. What was also very interesting, if you guys notice the yellow bricks, those yellow bricks were actually are from Denmark, and were the ballasts on the Danish ships. And then they would get replaced with the products leaving from the plantations. Something that just came out a couple weeks ago, a news article I just read. I do a lot of historical research, so this stuff kind of comes up on my. There was actually 2 ships that were 2 wrecks off the coast of Costa Rica, and for decades they couldn't figure out what the wrecks were or what country they were from. But just very recently, they actually found the yellow bricks in the ship and realized they were Danish ships. I'm gonna come up right over here. So if you guys look here, there's some coral on the wall. Okay, but later on the tour, I'll actually show you guys a lot better examples of it. If you come up here. Let's see if you guys can do the photo challenge. All right, any questions? Okay, so downtown Christian said we're gonna start going through it. It's a historical town, so some steps might not be what you guys are used to. Also, there might be things that stick out the sidewalk that don't work anymore, like that fire hydrant. I'm just gonna point that out. The reason I bring it up is just want everyone to stay safe, okay? All right, we're gonna be crossing the street and heading off to our next tasting. Bakeries here on St. Croix. They've almost become part of our cultures. Bakeries here have a snorkel significance here. People would come early in the morning to get a very dense breakfast, something that would fill them up all the way to lunch. And it was probably someone that would either be going to go fishing or even want to go work in the plantations. And so one of those meals that they would get is butter bread, okay? It's probably a very dense bread and it's still sold to this day. It's probably one of the most popular items sold from this bakery. As we can see, it's actually all kind of gone right now, okay? But a little bit about the family itself. Thomas is another family that came over from Trinidad in the 1970s. You can take a peek of them right up there. They were actually bakers in Trinidad before they came over, but when they came, Thomas actually ended up working at the oil refinery here on St. Croix. I actually heard some of you guys talking about it before, but he actually had worked there all the way up into the 1980s, but was then laid off due to a lot of layoffs that were happening at the refinery in general. So him and his wife actually started focusing on baking again and actually started baking outside of their home. I'm gonna pass this out first and then I'm gonna hand you out something too. Just gonna ask if you guys just pass this down, keep going. The reason I'm doing it like that, I once dropped this entire tray, so I don't wanna do that again. All right guys, just wanna show you this real quick. This is a smaller version of butter bread, but you might notice that's a pretty unique shape, okay? That unique name or unique shape has a name, it's called titty bread. And it's exactly the name that I think you just said, titty bread. It's supposed to look like a woman's bust. I'll say this, when we were kids and they used to give us titty bread for lunch, we all giggle, so.
It's really good. It's like, kind of like a cross between
all right, who needs a paper bag?
A scone and like a cookie.
You're welcome.
It's really, really nice. It's not too sweet. It'd be really good in the morning with like a cup of coffee or something. It's really good.
It's a perfect Crucian breakfast. So, welcome to the official entrance of Christiansted or downtown Christiansted. This is Sunday Market Square. In its name, this was a market back in the day during the Danish times. It was actually a very popular location for the community in general. People used to come out here on Sunday, trade and sell goods. But even generations after that, this was always a popular location. My parents have very fond memories coming here because it was actually one of the few places that had a movie theater inside. And they also remember after having to go to the movies, going to get a milkshake right around the corner, okay? This place has always been a permanent location for the community. But if you might notice, it doesn't look the greatest at this moment. And that is actually due to a lot of things, but mainly two major hurricanes that have happened in the past couple of decades, starting with Hurricane Pete. Sorry about that. It's a Christian day in Christiansted, so a lot of traffic. I'm not sure what's going on with the fire trucks, but no fire, so that's good. But yes, so this has always been an important location for the area, but in 1989, we were struck by Hurricane Hugo. It was the first major hurricane that struck the Virgin Islands in over 30 years, so a lot of the population were not ready for or prepared, which actually led to the devastation, okay? Then we fast forward to 2017, St. Croix, the Virgin Islands was actually struck by two Category 5 hurricanes, Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria. All right, any questions? I know it was a lot real quick, but I'm gonna have you guys step right down. We are gonna start walking to our next tasting. It's just right down the road. This one is a sit down and there's AC, okay? All right, here we go, guys. In 1917, when we had the sail from Denmark to the United States, we actually saw a large migration of Puerto Ricans coming over looking for work. They ended up staying on the island, adding to our culture, particularly into the food, which is the perfect way to describe it for you guys to taste it, which you're tasting right now. You guys are having, again, I just mentioned this before, probably one of the most popular dishes on St. Croix, 2 chicken, seasoned rice and beans, and a plantain on the side. We say it's one of the most popular dishes because you can find it basically in many different restaurants, but you guys are having the best version right here, okay?
yeah, absolutely. It was delicious. I've actually been to this restaurant before. It's my favorite dish in here. Probably the plantains. I'm a huge plantain fan.
None tomorrow, but Wednesday.
And those plantains were really delicious.
Wednesday. He was a beloved Governor General of St. Croix. It was actually a very unique thing to say. Most of the Danish governors were not beloved. So, for a reason, but I'm gonna get down to a second. Before I get into this little thing, I just like to make this so it's clear. We are now owned by the United States, but we do not share the same history when it came to slave history. We were not owned by the United States when the United States had slaves. Our slave history has to do with the Danish times, okay? And so what I'm gonna go through right now is basically our history of the Danish colonialism and how it affected the slave trade and everything and sugar and production, stuff like that, okay? I just like to make that clear before I start going into this part. All right, we're gonna fast forward to 1878. The former enslaved population, is now known as the labor population, and they are technically freed and getting paid, but they are basically living in the same conditions as they were when they were enslaved. So very similar, a plan was put forth to demand for better rights for the labor population. What's actually particularly unique about this event, it was actually led by 4 women. Very similar to the 2 gentlemen I mentioned, these 4 women have now become historical figures here on St. Croix, and we honor them by calling them the queens of the fire burn. We're going to start with 1493 with Christopher Columbus' discovery of the Virgin Islands. I say discovery in quotes because it's already very hard to discover something when there's already a large group of people here, and there was actually 2 large groups of people here, the Taínos and the Caribs, okay? But in the end, Christopher Columbus did conquer or claim St. Croix for Spain, okay? And that's how we get our first ownership with 1493 with Spain. Now we're going to fast forward to the 1600s. The Spanish government had kind of abandoned the island, and so the Dutch and the British had actually both set up a colony on each side of the island. And there was actually peace among the two groups for a long period of time, but then at one point, one governor went to the other side and did not come back because he actually got murdered, so that was the end of the peace. The British ended up kicking all the Dutch off the island, but they didn't have too much time with it because the Spaniards decided they wanted their island back and came and actually killed all the English colonists. And that's how we get Spain's second time owning the Virgin Islands. But they didn't have it too long because then the French government decided they wanted their turn of St. Croix and they came and kicked the Spaniards out. But this French, in my opinion, were probably the least successful of all the different countries because they actually had a lot of deaths on the island due to diseases. They actually blamed the island itself, thinking it was cursed, and they started burning big chunks of it, thinking that would help, but it was actually probably yellow fever that they brought amongst themselves, okay? So they kind of abandoned the island. They would actually stay out in ships. So the governor of the time, the governor of the fresh West Indies ended up buying St. Croix for himself, okay? Because that was the kind of thing that you could do back then, is buy a whole island for yourself. So one bill, I like to point this out because one thing that did not do very well during the hurricanes was our libraries, but this one had just recently opened up last year, so I just like to acknowledge it. Also, I've talked a lot about the archives being in Denmark. This is actually one of the few locations on St. Croix that is actually an archive. They have a great library database and also photo archive. So if you guys here visiting again, you want to see some old pictures of St. Croix, I'll check it out. Also, a couple months ago, I got to see my 3-year-old nephew go with his class in the library, which made me very happy. So very glad they're open, and hopefully our one out west will be open soon too. That's a local mahogany tree. They are protected here on St. Croix. They are very popular for woodworking and furniture making, and that is due to the fact that they actually have a natural carcinogenic in them, so bugs are prone not to eat them. All right, here we go. So here's the plan, guys. You see that stone-looking building right there? You guys are gonna slowly start walking towards it. I'm gonna run ahead and place our drink order. I'm gonna meet you guys in the middle, okay? Here we go. All right, so we spoke a little bit about what the Danes were doing here, which is growing sugar cane, which they would crush into do plantation. The way that they would actually crush sugar cane is actually with these large windmills that you can find throughout the island. This is actually a recreation of one. This was never used for a sugar mill, but it's supposed to look like one, usually a lot larger. And when I say windmill, think Don Quixote style windmill, okay? And that would be used to create sugar cane. Sugar cane, or sugar in general, made the island extremely wealthy and the Danish government extremely wealthy, to the point that we were actually the capital of the Virgin Islands for a while, but we actually started to see a decline in the sugar trade, starting off with emancipation and then later on the labor riot. But we started seeing a serious decline in the sugar production here on St. Croix with the discovery of the sugar beet in Europe. So once that happened, there was no longer a need for all these European nations to grow sugar outside of the continent. So that's when we started seeing a real decline on that. That's when St. Croix became more of a port city. We were a stopping point on the way across the Atlantic. But then with the invention of the steamship, we were no longer in need for that also. Here we go. Let's go have our drink. Alright guys, while they're getting the drinks ready, just talk about this meal itself. So like I said, this was never actually used to crush sugar cane or anything like that. This was actually the honeymoon suite for Hotel St Croix, which is right back here. And it was actually a very popular honeymoon room. Downstairs was the kitchen, in the middle was the bathroom, and then upstairs was the bedroom. But kids used to take a ladder and put it on the side of the sugar mill and take a peek at the honeymoon activities. And so that was the end of the honeymoon suite. For a while it was used for storage, but now it's the home for Leon vodka tasting room, and in the back is the pizza parlor. But yep, as soon as everyone gets their drink, I'm gonna start handing out the pâtés next, okay? Let me help with the drinks. Wanna go right by her and just smile for me?
So good.
But is there any questions, anything about St. Croix, guys? Everyone's good? Y'all just decided to get back to the ship, enjoying the tasting? Nice, nice. Awesome.
Enhance the flavors of the chocolate. You guys get to have a special treat today, only because my brain is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs of all the things that are going on. Come on, baby. All right, you get to choose one bonbon today. All right, I have 15 different flavors, and I'm going to name them off, and I'm going to ask one of each for you, which flavor you would like, okay?
This is a special treat.
It's with the essence of chocolate. Chocolate, the fat of chocolate is cocoa butter. The same cocoa butter that you put on your body on a daily basis, okay? So we're all chocolate people because it's the essence of chocolate. So, all I ask of you is to please enjoy our island, all right? But leave it the way you found it.
Well, all right, guys, so if you're all ready.
Thank you so much.
It was very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And like I said at the end of the tour, I could definitely help everyone come back. So here we
I used to
go.
work at Collingwood and Associates when we helped you to get this open. Congratulations. Congratulations.
The door is open.
Bye.
All right, here we go.
I had the white chocolate with the guava filling. It was so good. Oh my gosh, the guava was like perfect. It was sweet, a little sweet, really tart, and it like blended really well with like the creamy the creamy white chocolate. That was really good.
So yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. But on that note, well, sorry. We have seen a lot of amazing Danish architecture as we walk around Christiansted, so why not end it on the most beautiful example of Danish architecture as the car pulls up and blocks my view. But yes, here is the government house, the governor's mansion, okay? Now it's actually a government building. Just a couple months ago, it was actually one of the places that you would get your passport replied to that's no longer there. But if you think of that mentality, it's that kind of building, the lieutenant governor's office in there, licensing and trade is in there. But back in the day, during the Danish time, this was the governor's mansion. It was probably the largest governor's mansion in the Caribbean during that period. It's a pretty large building for St. Croix. It takes almost half of King Street and a quarter of King Cross Street, and you also might know it has 3 stories. The 1830 date at the top of the steps is when they finished the construction, okay? I didn't learn this until I actually went to Denmark myself, and you see that gentleman standing in front of it right now, the red crayon looking thing? That is actually associated with the guards, okay? So back in the Danish times, you would actually see a guard stand out front, and I learned that when I went to Denmark. I went to the Annenberg Castle there where the Queen lives, and I saw them stand out front. Now there's actually a lot of mahogany furniture in there, but they're all recreations of the originals, all right?
So I got the pistachio goat cheese ice cream from Cream & Co. It's so good.
I had an amazing tour, a lot of fun. You guys were a great group, great energy. I'm just gonna go over the different stops that we did, and I would love to hear everyone's favorites, okay? We started off at Sing's, where we had the smaller version of a roti, where we had the single of a double, with the skinless chickpeas, curry potatoes inside. Then we went over to the bakery, where we had our coconut drop with some bush tea. Then we went down to Zenny's restaurant where we had stewed chicken, seasoned rice and beans, and a plantain on the side. Then we went down to the boardwalk where we had a Leon vodka painkiller with a pate, chicken and beef. And then we went down to Blue Chocolat, had some amazing chocolate that was served in Paris. And again, that's a very special treat. That was my first time having one of the bonbons, so big positive there. And now we're here having some amazing ice cream at Creams & Co. So what was your guys' favorite stops? It doesn't need to go in order, you can just say it. Favorite food? Zenny's and the painkiller? Yep. Anybody else? Painkiller? Pates? Sings? Okay. All right.
I like the chocolate.
The chocolate?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that white chocolate and passion fruit was pretty banging. But yes. All right. I did have a couple goals for the tour. Number 1, have fun. Everyone had fun. Number 2, learn something new. Yeah. Awesome. And then number 3, full bellies. All right. Awesome. If I did reach all those goals, I do accept a tip, but that's a tour right there, guys. So thank you very much for your time. I'm more than willing to, I'm not going anywhere. So I'm more than willing to help everyone find either their taxi or stores or anything like that. If you need me to talk to a taxi person, I can too, okay? But thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, same.